This is our final talk of the day, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Tash Wilcox to the stage. First of all, Tash is a force of nature to those who know her. She's a talented illustrator, but she's probably best known for being a prolific design educator. She spent over 25 years training designers of different types. She was the program lead of graphics at Salford University, then the director of the Masters at Hyper Island. After that, she joined Snook, where she created the Learning Design Hub and launched their Design Academy. And now she's doing the same at TPX, building their Design Academy. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Tash to the stage. Come on.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I said, don't hype me. I was like, keep it low, and then I won't disappoint anyone. So I'm going to disappoint you now. Okay, so I'm here to speak about design systems don't solve problems, people do. I am just going to say, it's really hard going at the end of the day. I've wanted to change what I was talking about 25 times. The talks so far have been incredible, and that last one was amazing. So I also want to say thank you to all the organisers. So I am going to do a little round of applause before I even start speaking for the people that have gone before, and for the organisers, huge thank you. And with that, I'm going after an incredibly sort of meaningful panel on trauma-informed design, and I named my talk after Goldie Looking Chain. If you don't know that, it's a Welsh hip-hop band. They weren't good. But it is a loose reference to that because it is really important. People are important. Everything that came through today, people kept threading through. So my name's Tash. At the moment, I'm a design lead at TPX Impact. Before that, I've done a lot of different things. I've always had, I'm going to act this out. One foot in education, I'm going to do the splits. Another foot in industry. And it's a really privileged position. You get to meet a lot of people. You see their careers advance. There's quite a few of my alumni in the audience as well. So it's really lovely to see how well you've done. And I've worked in lots and lots of different spaces. And over 25 years, it's sort of knocking on 30 now. Basically, I've sort of seen it go from at the top there. That isn't one of mine, but my first sort of, what I'd say is a design system, it was a brand guideline, got dumped on me by Diageo, and it was a folder with about 25 sort of sheets of orders, let's say, and then CD-ROMs in it. And they were like, just follow that. I turned one of the birds the wrong way round and basically got sacked. So I am a massive believer. I know on the slide before I said I was a lone wolf graphic designer. I used to work on my own. I did album covers. I didn't have to worry about all the faff and stuff, like the design systems in the background and the brand guide, because somebody else did that for me. But then as I went on in my career, I sort of really realised that team is everything. So design systems, tools, techniques, frameworks, models, templates, they're all wonderful and they all have their place. I love all of them equally. I'm not saying they're redundant, but they don't solve problems. People do. I'm not going to sing it. I might. This is based on, has anybody seen The Agile Onion? No? A few people, yeah. A couple of people put their hands up. Fantastic. This is blatantly nicked and sort of drawn over. I know I'm doing it. I've called it the digital leader Charlotte. Very subtle, Tash, thank you. But it goes from the basic principle that you've got tools and processes. In education, a lot of the time, what you find is people are really tool hungry. They want to know the tools. It's like, give me all the tools. Don't really want to understand how they work or why you're using them. And that's what I need to do in education, is sort of really, really keep pulling people back. Tools and processes, practices, principles, they're all really important. Values are essential, but it's the mindset that underpins it all that is what drives it. And also, what I really have to hold in there, so I've built things from scratch, inside companies, outside companies. I've worked with startups, I've worked with large corporations, worked with lots and lots of different organizations. And one thing I really have to take into that is most people don't come to work to annoy you. Most people aren't dicks. Just but if there's one key takeaway, take that away. Because this is from Marshall Rosenberg. Every criticism, judgment, diagnosis, and expression of anger is the tragic expression of an unmet need. The people who are using the design system aren't hacking it, aren't ignoring it, aren't not using it because they want to annoy you. There's a need behind that. It could be they've just not heard about it, they're super busy. They might have change fatigue. People have tried to implement stuff like this on them before, again and again. It could be they're scared about their jobs. I listened to a podcast the other day that was super interesting. They said that 75% of early career jobs will not exist because of design systems. The design systems are actually going to rid that. That's okay, that's happened throughout sort of digital coming in. But what we need to do is arm people with understanding they need to hold the design processes, the tools lightly. They need to understand that their jobs will change, that their entire job isn't just making that button. Because if there's one button that solves it all, they don't need to sort of design those 25 other buttons. So every criticism, judgment, diagnosis, and expression of anger is the tragic expression of an unmet need. Your users have needs, but so do the people that you work with. So do the people that need to use this design system. But first, I have a need. Right, at this point, because I am going to ask you to do something, and I was going to go, so it's not been very interactive today. I wasn't expecting to do an 8-minute yoga session. So you are going to do another little bit of interactivity. I have a need. What I need you to do is, I don't know how I'm going to do this with the two things in my hands. I'm going to follow me. So basically, I saw an orchestra do this, and then one of my friends did it the other day. So I'm going to have to sort of do it like this. So rub your hands together. Just rub them together. Lovely. Keep rubbing. Stop and start clicking your fingers. Okay, start tapping your thighs. Nice, it's like a little rainstorm. Keep tapping your thighs, and when I say go, just sort of bang your feet. Okay, go. Oh, thunder, feel it coming in. Awesome. Drum it up a little bit more, a little bit louder, and bring it down, 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 down. Start clicking your fingers. Back to rubbing your hands. Thank you. Awesome. That was nice. And stop. So amazing. See, that's how humans, when we work together, can whip a storm up. See how I shoehorned that in? I just wanted to do that exercise. We can whip up a storm. But working together, it can be difficult and it can be really hard to be involved in something that you don't even know exists, that you don't know what it's about. This is the TPX Design Academy that's just been mentioned. So I was brought into TPX about 5 months ago. They said, we want to build an academy. Go build the academy. It's the type of thing that I do get brought into. And it's amazing. It's about bridging that gap between industry and education, or for people who've been locked out because they've been in a different career, for people and parents who might have had kids and have been locked out again because it's like, no, you can't come back in again. It's been 4 or 5 years. Time's moved on. You're not allowed back in again. So what we wanted to do with the academy is it's not just for graduates. It was for lots of different people. So these are the 10 people that we have on. So they're paid to be there. And basically, I've got 50 people out of our design team involved. So there's 50 people actively working. They're creating the designs for me and working with me. I've done workshops, talks, blogs, internal newsletters, emails, Slack, to LinkedIn a lot. Away day mentions, I talk about it all the time. I am a walking, talking. Have you met the academy yet? 50 people involved from the team, etc., etc. And then the other day, at the away day, after I'd just spoken about it, somebody said, Tash, what are you doing? I said, the Design Academy. And they went, what's that? But that's not on them. That's on me. And the amount of people I spoke to about design systems, so when I was putting this talk together, I interviewed quite a few people about design systems, how they were involved. One of the frustrations that came out was, when I try to interact, or sort of when I ask questions, or when I'm a little bit naive, the design system people are a little bit mean to me. They say, why don't you know that? I'm not going to bother, I can't be bothered to talk about that. And that's not all design systems, but you've got to remember, again, that person is not trying to annoy you. They've just been busy. They've just been doing the role that they've been doing. And in fact, if I probably really thought about it, I probably don't know everything about what they're doing either, because you're in your bubble working away really hard. So keep thinking about that and keep talking, keep blogging, keep getting that word out there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about psychological safety, and I'm very aware the person in the earlier panel has more experience in this than me, but I'm going to just scratch the surface. So how many people have heard about psychological safety? Yeah, lovely. It's the buzzword of the moment. Everyone loves a little bit of psychological safety. Sometimes not willing to put the effort in, though. We like to say brave spaces. So brave spaces feels a little bit sort of nicer. That's not because I don't like the term psychological safety, but sometimes when you bring those words in, it feels a bit scientific. So Jared Spall writes, to be truly design infused, the organisation must ensure every influencer of a project has the same design literacy and fluency. When they don't participate in the design decisions in the same way as the rest of the teams, the resulting conflict produces less than desirable experiences. And designers, if you're doing a design system or if you're doing anything like the Academy, you need to bring other people with you. It's really, really important to bring other people with you. There's another term that design is a weak link sport. And what by that I mean, football is a weak link sport. You're not going to dribble the ball all the way from one goal, all the way over on your own, not kick it to anyone else, and put it into the other goal. Yep. I totally thought you were going to do what somebody did to me the other day. He just scratched his head. A person once in the audience, once said, I don't know who did it. It was somebody like Pele. They were like, well, Pele did it. And you normally go, that's not the point I'm trying to make. So, other than Pele, it's a team sport. You have to upgrade the weakest link. You have to train, you've got to speak to, you've got to work with that weakest link. Make sure you're all understanding where your goalpost is. You're all passing the ball between each other. User-centered design is a weak link sport. It's not that sort of like star player kind of game. So what is psychological safety? Psychological safety is the belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes, and the team is safe for taking interpersonal risks. If we all work together with this mindset, it would be great to work in this sort of space. And hopefully some of you are working in spaces like that. And it's about being able to speak up, saying when something doesn't work, saying when it's risky or unethical, etc. Because when we go to work, no one wants to feel like they're ignorant. We don't want to look like we're incompetent. We definitely don't want to look like we're intrusive or negative. So all of those things, we don't want to go to work and feel like people are looking at us like that. And that's fine. It's really, really easy. It's called impression management. And apparently, we learn impression management from a really early age. So 11 to 12 years old, start impression management. And it's just the impression that you are giving to other people. You act in a certain way to manage it. So what do? You don't want to look ignorant, don't ask any questions. You don't want to look incompetent, don't admit any weaknesses or any mistakes. Intrusive, definitely don't offer ideas. And negative, never ever critique the status quo. But if you're leading or working on a design system, and again, this could be for wider sort of UCD or design in general, if you're working in this space, as a leader or a lead of that space, you need the team to do all of these. You need them to ask questions. You need them to admit their mistakes. They need to talk about those mistakes. They need to share them. If you share mistakes really openly, and GDS do this really wonderfully, a lot of the blogs in government as well, they go, look, this happened. If you share it, that means somebody else doesn't need to make that mistake. They can learn from your mistakes. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing to do, but it's also a very brave thing to do. We don't like admitting that. They need to offer ideas, and they need to critique the status quo. And if the team has a closed door policy and you don't really want to know, you don't want any feedback on this, it's not going to work. So you need them to ask questions openly, share mistakes, offer ideas, and critique the status quo, because if you do not do that and do not have an open dialogue with that team, mistakes are made. Mistakes are repeated because nobody knows about that mistake being made in the first place. Bad decisions and work go through. People start hacking their systems together and no learning is had. And it's about a learning organization. It's about learning together and stepping forward. Those hacks, and I am the worst for this, those hacks work for you. So I quite often hack designs and then go, I hacked the design, I'm sorry, okay? And it'll work for you. It's like, you know those buzzers you get outside where all the numbers are in the wrong place and somebody's put stickers on them and corrected it? It fixes it for that one solution. But there's billions of them out there. If you don't feed back, if you don't fix it properly, it's just going to keep continuing. And that's why you need these open dialogues. So reminder, psychological safety is the belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes, and the team is safe of making interpersonal risk-taking. So there are ways to help create psychological safety. So frame the work as a learning problem and not an execution problem. So it's always about learning. There's enormous uncertainty and interdependency ahead. It's everyone's problem. So it's not just that leader, it's not just that group, it's everyone's problem. So you have to speak up. You really encourage people to speak up. You invite it. Recognize your fallibility. We're not perfect. That's okay. People don't want leaders to be perfect. So you could say things like, I may miss something, I need to hear from you. Put it out there, or admit the mistakes. Admit the mistakes first. Go, look, we did this, but this is what we learned from it. If I don't talk about my mistakes, why would anybody in the team talk about their mistakes? So lead by example. And finally, one that I really love, model curiosity. Be curious about the team, about the problems, about the hacks. Why did they do that? Be super, super curious about what's going on in the wider space and create that brave space. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but psychological safety isn't trust. So they are really, really closely interlinked. That's what I'm trying to say. They are interlinked. And it's implicit. You have to have the trust factor in there. You need to trust everyone in the group and the team to take that risk, and it's not easy. And it has 3 factors that you can see here. So ability and logic, how smart and competent you are, your reasoning and judgment is sound. Benevolence and empathy, how much you have people's interest at heart, you actively listen, and I believe you care. And on integrity and authenticity, you are transparent, you deliver on what you say, and I experience the real you. Side note here, does anybody else always think benevolence is a bad thing? It sounds evil. No, just me. Okay, so, and what they say, so this is a trust triangle. There's a lot of different discussions on here. And a lot of the time, I think people get really, really carried away with, well, I've just showed them, I know what I'm talking about. I'm really smart. I can show them how smart I am, and I'm going to point at you because you've got a lovely yellow top on. I'm just going to tell you how smart I am repeatedly, and this is why it's going to work. And a lot of people think that's how to get the idea across. It's not. It's one of the ways. Well, don't point and don't go, this is how you do it. Logic's fantastic. We want to trust the people that they know what they're doing. But actually, the thing that takes this down and breaks it, so if you look at it as a triangle that will break it, is the benevolence and empathy. If people don't think you care about them, you don't care about the team, they will not care and they step away. And research shows if that's missing, that entire triangle goes down. So that's the super important thing. And as designers, we should have empathy. But something I've noticed, and I've seen it in myself, sometimes lack empathy a little bit for my own team. So keep stepping back. Keep going, okay, how do I listen? How do I really, really encourage them to be involved? So, hello. We're going to go through the Johari window again. Anyone heard of the Johari window? Awesome. There's a few people. I'm going to go through it, and then I'm going to flip it. So the Johari window is an amazing sort of model that was by Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham. Joe and Harry, Johari, see what they did there. Okay. And it's about seeing ourselves and how we sort of act in the space. So what they have is the open arena. And that's you. It's your open arena. So this is about individuals. So I'm starting with individuals. I've got what I know about myself, and I allow others to know about me. So it's my behaviors, it's the way I act, it's what I say. But it's also what I know about myself. So that's the arena. That's what I put out into the world. There's the blind spot. So what I don't know about myself, but others do. Okay? So I know it about myself. No, I don't know about, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm going to read it. What I don't know about myself and others can see. So that's stretching into the blind space. And what I mean about that is when I used to talk, I used to do this all the way through. And every time I said the word stretch, I'd do that. I did not notice I was doing that. You would think I would notice I was doing that. But actually, some of the students came up and was like, actually, Sash, when you're doing that, it's really hard to track what you're saying because you bob up and down like a sort of penguin. So I'm like, okay. And I think it was just a nervous twitch thing. I've probably started doing a new thing, and you'll be like, do you know you do this in the talk? If they hadn't fed back, I would not be aware of that. Okay? So that's in that blind spot. Then you've got hidden. It's what I know about myself, but I choose not to tell other people. And that's fine. There's private, you keep that private. There's personal and there's professional. In there, in the hidden, there might be some personal stuff that affects the professional. But actually, if it's relevant, you can bring into the space. And I'll go into that in a little bit more. And then there's the unknown. So that's what nobody knows about me, including myself. Okay? So we've got the open arena, everyone knows it. The blind spot, which is other people notice it, I am not aware of it. Hidden, that's what I know about myself, but I choose not to share with other people. And unknown, that's what I don't know about myself and others don't know about either. So, the aim of this is we want to widen that arena, and that's through development and discussions. So why do we want a big arena? The reason is a person with a big arena has an open approach and attitude that supports receiving and giving information to and from others. And the consequence of this is that people in your surroundings are less likely to misunderstand you or misinterpret what you're communicating. So it's a really, really great thing to have within the workspace. And in these, and I'm happy to share these slides, there's links to exercises you can do with this and further reading about this model. I'm giving it a real surface level sort of introduction. Do dive into it a little bit. And how do you widen that arena? So, on the blind spot, is actively seek feedback. Go out there and ask for feedback. At the end of a talk, at the end of sort of doing some work, go out and say, can I have some specific, concrete feedback on when I did X? Going into the hidden, share thoughtfully. What can you bring in? What can you share? If you share with somebody else, usually they share back. You don't have to ask intrusive questions. You share thoughtfully. And again, it's about what you choose to bring in. You don't have to share everything there. And then we've got the unknown. So this one, sometimes people don't quite get. How do I not know this about myself yet? It's things you haven't done yet. It could be you've never done, I'm going to go with public speaking because I'm stood here. It could be you've never done any public speaking. So you go, okay, I'm going to go up and I'm going to do some public speaking. I was about to do it then. You do that stretching. You stretch yourself into new spaces and then ask people for feedback. How did it feel for you? What do other people have feedback for you? Okay? So, key ideas behind the tool is you can build trust with others by disclosing information about yourself, so that actively thoughtful sharing. And with the help of feedback from other people, you can learn about yourself and deal with personal issues. So, what I've done is just flip it. So imagine your design systems in that space. And it's going back to what a lot of people have mentioned today. You'll see loads and loads of themes that have just pulled through really easily. So if the design system is that area, instead of being an individual, it's the actual design system, what can you do to seek feedback? Can you go and ask verbally? Do feedback forms, ask on Slack, on Yammer, whatever channels you have. Be curious. You can have focus groups. You can have feedback sessions, presentations. Ask after the presentations. Open door policy. Be friendly. Listen. And then evidence the change as well. Really similar to what was just being said before. It's about go out and seek it, but don't seek it once. Keep going out there, keep asking. You will have new people coming into the system. You've got new people coming in all the time. You've got people who've got distracted. Keep people involved. The more you can involve them, the more ownership they'll feel. And the more ownership they feel, the more they will want to use that system, the more they'll speak about it, the more they'll share it. It becomes something that they're really, really proud of because they were part of it. It's not just all on you. So there's a diagram there where you can see a lot of the time the people who are leading it are sort of like that pain point in the middle. Everything balances on them. It's not good for you and it's not good for the wider team. It's about splitting out that ownership. It's about splitting out that responsibility. It still comes in past you. There is sort of policies, etc. But actually, it takes the weight off and it gives the ownership a little bit more shared. And then we've got the sharing. You heard me say it before. And what I liked, I think it was Caroline, I'm not sure if she's gone, but what Caroline said earlier, there you are, I just saw you lean out. Hello, I'm going to speak about you. Caroline mentioned it earlier. It's a privilege to be here. We're in a privileged position. Not everybody has that. Some people will have to sort of like do lots and lots of different things. They're not going to be hearing what you're sharing. So share it in lots and lots of different ways. So it's about storytelling, share roadmaps, training, involve in research, cognitive mapping, show and tells. I've said share roadmaps twice. Blogs, communities of practice, invite people in. There's meetups, workshops, newsletters, speak at events like this. Keep going out and keep sort of breaking that seal. Open government sessions. That was a really, really lovely suggestion from someone. Sort of how do you actually work in this way? Share with influencers and leaders. And again, somebody said this earlier. I think it was you. Said about speaking. I've got it written down here. Rachel said it. If they like a phrase, use that one. I loved that. Learn to use their language. How can you speak to different people in different ways? You go to them, they don't come to you. It's coming. Kevin Costner, I promised that gentleman over there that I'd mentioned Kevin Costner. It's not about build it and they will come. I've forgotten the name of the film. What was it? Thank you. It's not Field of Dreams. You can't build it and they won't come. You need to go to them. The illustration there is from Switch by Dan Heath. So basically, I redrew it. There's a lot of research. So you know when you go into coffee shops and you buy a coffee, just nod along. You all go to coffee. Yes, thank you. So you go in and buy a coffee, and they go, I like you, I'll give you a few extra stamps for free. And you're like, oh, they love me. I'm going back to that coffee shop. They're not being nice to you. They want you to buy more coffee. It's an evil, evil plan. Don't fall for it. But that's like in industry as well. So the reason they give you those couple of stamps, it could be because you're lovely. I think, Imran, you probably get them because you're lovely. But they give you that because it encourages you. They feel like you've done part of the journey already. There's loads of research into this. Dan Heath actually talks about a car wash where they did it, where they gave them out and they were empty, and not many people came back. If you put a few stamps on there, the majority, I think it was like 70% people came back because they felt like they've made some of the journey. And what I mean by this is, if you're sort of like trying to transition people into design system, into different spaces, if you're trying to sort of like take people through change, evidence to them that they've done a little bit of the work already. Most of the time they have. There are a few steps towards there. So really show them. They don't, it's not like a massive mountain because look, you're up to the first base already. Really simple. But it really helps people come with you. And then we have the unknown, and that is the stretching. That's those fresh challenges. It's considered risk-taking. It's about inviting ideas. People will be out there creating hacks, doing things that you're like, oh, don't do that. I need you to not do that. But they're doing it for a reason, so invite them in. It's better to have them in talking about why they've done that than hiding from you and doing it anyway. So open those doors, have those conversations, get them to talk about it, maybe have a bit of a go at it as well. So invite ideas and considered risk, share the failures and what you've learned, put that out in the world. Again, that's a little bit like we've made some of the failures, we've done some of the coffee stamps for you. Pose questions, I can never say this word, provocative questions, whatever the word is. Encourage teams to focus on innovative ideas instead of the repetitive tasks. Because actually, the wonderful thing about design systems are we shouldn't be doing these things again and again and again. Actually, it's taking those jobs away so we can be innovative, we can think in new ways. It opens up that space. So, I rewrote, used to work with a lot of startups and they loved the fail fast, fail often. They didn't like any of the learning. So I've made it much catchier. It's fail, reflect, learn, share your experience often. Rolls off the tongue. Loads of startups are going to take that on. Thanks, Tash, I know, brilliant. But it is really, really important. It's okay to fail as long as you reflect, as long as you learn, as long as you share that experience. And coming back to that psychological safety and that the trust triangle that I went through. By doing all of these, so frame the work as a learning problem and not an execution problem. That's that curiosity. It's understanding that we're in this together. We're learning together. We're inviting feedback. We're holding workshops. We need to do this together. We don't just own this. We, the wider we, own this. Integrity and authenticity. You are listening. We are listening. We're putting it out there. But the real us is sort of standing in front of you. Recognizing the fallibility is that publishing when you've done a mistake, when you've made a mistake, putting it out in the world, owning it, showing it, evidencing it, and then, but this is what we learned from doing it. Benevolence and empathy, modeling curiosity, and ability and logic. It's all in that model. It's all about putting it into that shared space. So, I'm going to talk about parrots. In 1977, the St. Lucia parrot was almost extinct. So enter an unlikely saviour. It's recent graduate Paul Butler, and Paul joined the St. Lucia's Forestry Department. And basically, he was asked, could he save the St. Lucia parrot? It was dying out. It was basically getting eaten, killed, just chopped down into extinction. And he came out with some ideas. So his recommendations were beef up the punishment. So beef it up. Or they could establish an existing forestry reserve, a parrot sanctuary. Or raise money by licensing rainforest tours. Get those tourists in, get the money off them. Okay? He did not have the power or influence or financial backing to do these. So similar to if you're in a design system, you probably won't have the influence to go, we can punish the team. We will just punish them. It's the best way to do it. That goes back to that carrot and stick question earlier. Don't punish the team. The best way to get somebody not to use your design system is to punish them. They'll go, I'm going to do this. Yeah? They begin to resent it. They'll resent it if there's punishment involved. We're adults. We should be able to do this. So what he actually did was understand the people he's working with. So there was no clear economic case for saving the parrot. Didn't earn us any money, so we're just going to let it die. It wasn't the linchpin of an ecosystem, and the sad truth was that most St. Lucians probably wouldn't notice if it disappeared completely. But the St. Lucians were lovely, lovely people, and they cared about one another. And actually, Paul at this point realized that he had to make the parrot one of their own. So what he did was, he got the St. Lucian parrot puppet shows. He got the St. Lucia parrot t-shirts, printed those out. A local band that was really popular recorded a St. Lucia parrot song for him. He got volunteers to dress up as St. Lucian parrots, and he asked local trusted ministers to connect with the St. Lucia parrot with Bible verses. So it's very much about connecting the people with the parrot. And the St. Lucians started embracing the St. Lucia parrot as their own. And the St. Lucia parrot is no longer facing extinction. I expected a whoop. Whoop. Thank you. Because Paul Butler did not shrink from the challenge. Instead, he grew into the people. So I am not saying dress as a parrot. I'm not saying you have to dress as a design system. That would be super weird. But what I am saying is you have to get people to understand that they're part of it. You have to understand what makes those people in the team tick. You have to invite them in. How do they see that they're part of that community? And the word community has come up quite a few times today, which is really fantastic. How do you make them feel part of it? Design system is the parrot. And finally, just going to finish off on the elephant here. So this is from Jonathan Haidt, really, really interesting guy. And what he talks about is the elephant and the rider. Imran's looking at his watch. I'm going to check the time. What time is it? No, we're good. God, wow, dude. So, going to finish off on the elephant. Jonathan Haidt says, within each person, you've got an elephant and a rider. So a lot of the time, people get this mixed up. You are not the rider. You are the elephant and the rider as one combined thing. Okay? You've got, the rider is rational. They're the planner. But they're also weak. They're great because they're logical, they're thoughtful, analytical. They require direction, and clarity is the key. And they get stuff done. The rider's wonderful. But the problem is, they are sat on top. Does somebody else touch? People are checking the watches. I'm getting there. Okay. Sat underneath them is a 10-ton elephant. I don't know how heavy elephants are. Let's go with 10 ton. There's a 10-ton elephant. And the thing is, the elephant is the emotional. They're the doer. They are passionate. They're compulsive. They're strong. They they love stories and purpose, and they love overthinking. And the thing is, it doesn't matter, however logical you are with people, they could be going, yes, it's amazing. You directed the rider, that sounds good, we're going this direction. If emotionally, that elephant's like, no, 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 they cannot stop that elephant going in a different direction. So you've got to direct the rider, but you've got to motivate that elephant. And that's that para, it's all the things I've been talking about. It's the motivation. How do you motivate people to get involved? How do you even get to have people hear about this? So it's about telling those stories again and again in lots and lots of different ways, because people hear those stories, hear that connection in lots and lots of different ways. So what I want you to do, next time somebody ignores, rejects, misuses the design system, or asks, wait, what is it? What I want you to do is not get angry or frustrated. Just get super curious, because design systems don't solve problems, people do. Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got a good amount of time for questions. Are you okay to take questions,
Yeah.
Tash? Any questions for Tash? Yep, one over there. Get the ball rolling.
Hiya, thank you, that was amazing. An easy question. How do you motivate the people? Like, what have you got, like a top tip on that, kind of making that emotional connection maybe to get that motivation going?
I'd love to come out with a top tip now. I'd be like, so. Yeah, it's different things for different people, different teams. I think I'm going back to what Rachel said earlier, like find out what they like, find out the language, because some people easy motivated, it'll be money, and they'll be like, does this bring down money? And you can talk about that. But it's about mixing, a lot of the time, there's a thing called spark lines in storytelling. And I've forgotten the woman who sort of came out with it. But it's creating like visions of hope. It's like, okay, this is where we are now, ooh, but this is where we could be, and this is where we are now, this is where we could be. But those sort of like triggers will be completely different in different people. So it's get to know people. And again, you cannot, like when you're in sort of teams of thousands of people, you can't get to know every single person. So get to know the influencers and sort of find out who are those people that sort of seem to get shit done in those places. We worked with a gallery at one point, and I was trying to sort of like influence this change in the gallery. And actually, the person who had the most influence in that entire space was the woman on the front desk. She knew everyone, and the security, actually. They knew everyone. They knew little bits about them. And speaking to them really made it easier for me to sort of learn people's language, learn the sort of little triggers they had. So, yeah, I know it's talk to people. Thank you.